I had no idea about the Amy Bradley uh, case, right? And I guess it's trending because of Netflix and Kim Kardashian. There's some reason that all of a sudden, all of the years later, this happened in uh, 1998. So I'm watching. Of course, I got it from Twitter, and I wanted to know first of all about Alistair Douglas, one of the last people to have seen her live and spoken with her. And I have read a few witness statements, and sometimes they get it right, sometimes the witnesses get it wrong, but they're usually worth hearing from. But one of these things that immediately stood out to me was the statements of her father, Ron Bradley. Between 5:15 and 5:38 a.m. on March 24, Ron awoke and checked on his children, seeing that Bradley was asleep on the lounge chair of their cabin's balcony. So they took a cruise, the whole family. I'll tell you more about that later. Ron told local newspapers, "I could see Amy's legs from her hips down." Dozed back off to sleep around the time that it happened. The balcony door was closed because if it hadn't been closed, I would have gotten up and closed it. Listen to this. The balcony door was closed. That should be the sentence. But he says the balcony door was closed, and he explains why the balcony door was supposed to be closed. If I told you I woke up at 8:30 and my door was closed, my balcony door. I look at my balcony door right now actually, and it's open, right? If I told you the balcony door was closed, not I, you would remember that because you would. You don't need to explain that. You don't feel the need to explain it. This is unnecessary information. Let me see if you guys see this better now. These parts, disappearance. Okay. And of course, I'm going to get a little bit more into the last guy who saw her. Um, Interesting case, man. But this is very worrying what the father said. The balcony door was. Okay, first, let you hear what I just listened to. So this is Alistair Douglas, who was one of the last people to speak with her. And there have been, um, well, let's listen to him.
Um, there's not a lot to remember in terms of remembering her, but I remember the short conversation we've had. So it was, I think it was a Monday night. I believe it was a Monday night. It's been years, so it's either Monday or Tuesday, but I believe it was a Monday night. There's a program called Dancing Under the Stars.
Yeah. Oh, I should tell you, I was on the ship like a month ago. I took a trip on the Rhapsody.
Oh.
So I know the layout of Viking
Okay.
Lounge and all that.
Lovely. So, as usual, we play until midnight. We were sailing out of Aruba.
Yes.
The next day should be Curacao.
Yep.
So as you sail out of Aruba, we have this thing called Dancing Under the Stars. And we played. We finished a little after 12. We supposed to finish by 12. A little after 12. I can't tell you exactly what time. And normally people always come up and talk to us. And I remember her clearly coming across when we finished playing and came across to me and said, "Hi, good set, I mean, back then when I played, I jump around a lot and all of that." And
So he's talking about Amy Bradley right now. And before I go on, I realize, of course, that many of you may not even know who she is, even though I'm pretty sure, I had no idea who she was. I hadn't heard about. It's possible, by the way, I heard about the case back then, but have forgotten it. But apparently, she was born in 1974, so she was 24 years old. Wait, she was born May 12th, and she disappeared March 24, 1998. So this picture was taken a day before she disappeared. I already have my thoughts. She's in the water, but that's because I didn't. Well, I let you know how I got there. So she was age 23. This is her, Amy Lynn Bradley. See if I can make it bigger. Well, how about I zoom you in? And let me continue now with one of the last people to have seen her, and talked with her.
persons would have always compliment or talk about my way
So he is the musician, Alistair Douglas, aka Yellow.
of entertaining. So I said, thank you, like normal. And then she said to me that she blows a saxophone. I said, okay, interesting. What do you blow? And first thing, like, what?
Yeah, I mean, let's get real. What do you blow? You know, he, do I need to explain it? They're drinking, he's playing music, she's, you know, I don't
What
need
kind
to
of
explain
music
it.
you like?
And the fact that he feels a need to explain that also, yeah, there were undertones here. But that's not enough for me to have any red flags. It's just that he doesn't want to go there.
And but at that time we were packing. We were packing up. The band was packing up. Yeah. And I said to her, because that used to be my line. Once we finished play, we would go up to the lounge. What's this called at the time? What's the name of the club? You just came from the Viking Hunch, yeah. Yes. And we will hang there, but we would only hang until 1 o'clock, 5 to 1, 10 to 1, because as entertainers, we could hang, but we need to be out of the area by 1 o'clock. Yeah. So I went down like I normally do, changed my clothes, had a quick shower, and I came up. When I came up, she was on the deck, on the decking outside.
Okay.
So she saw me and she said, hi. And I said, hi, but she was smoking a lot, and that's not something I know or like. I growing up in Grenada, you hardly ever saw people smoke. And I was young, so it was like not a norm for me. Yeah. So we went up to the club, because that's where I was going. And we sat there. Of course, it's noisy, so there's not a lot you can say. But she was smoking a lot. And I asked her, I said, why are you, for me, it's uncomfortable. And it's like, why are you? And she said to me, she said her dad is an insurance
So Grenada is an island country in the Caribbean.
manager or something like that.
Okay, so she talked about her dad. She seemed very stressed out that night. And she talked about her dad because he wanted to know, what's your problem? Why are you smoking one cigarette after the other?
And he found out that she's gay.
Okay. She said that her dad found out she's gay.
And he forced her to come to the cruise. Well, first of all, with hearing that,
So let's hear it more.
well, I was like, well, I mean, didn't know what answer to give anyway. So I said to her, I was going on the dance floor. I was only going to be able to dance maybe one or two songs because of the time. So we came on the dance floor, danced. We both came, we both were on the floor. I know there were cameras that took photos of us dancing. I remember seeing all of that. And about 5 minutes to 1, I said, look, I have to go. I've got to be out of passenger area. Mm-hmm. And I left. That was my last conversation. And
that was the last time you saw her?
Last time I saw her.
What was your response when she told you she was gay?
That's not something I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I really did not know. I just thought it was wrong that they would have forced her to come, on the cruise because if I know that she was gay. But there was not much I could even say about it because it's not something I was used to.
Yeah.
So I just left it as,
How do you feel about that in general?
I have an adopted brother who's gay. And I have some friends who's gay. Yeah. And on the cruise ship, there were some musicians who were really close to me that was gay. But I remember telling one of them, we can be friends. We can talk. Once you're going to keep it appropriate, because this is not something I am used to. I mean, I grew up in church as a little boy. And we never talked too much about these things in church as little children. But we knew that it was not something that we will do or we should get ourselves involved in.
So he is not comfortable with it, in other words.
As a young boy at that time, didn't know how to relate to anyone like that. So I had friends, but I would talk.
Anyone like that. Also distancing languages. He was not comfortable with it. He's not comfortable with it in general.
We would play music together. On the ship we would talk, but I would not be in the circle so much because that was kind of different to me.
Why do you think she told you that?
I think because I asked why she was smoking. Maybe she wanted me to know. I don't know. But all I can say that was her reply to me.
Oh, that
for the reason why
was smoking because of the stress.
Yes.
So it's a good thing to ask, even though maybe this guy interviewing him is simply a forgetful person or just not a journalist at all. But he gives the same answer, and that's something that works on his behalf. That's a good thing. If he gave another answer, so if he said she was smoking a lot, and then he asked her what's wrong with her, or what's wrong, what's bothering her, and so on and so on. So if then he asked, so why you think she told you that, and he said, well, he tells me something completely different, then I would flag that immediately. So far, so cool.
Yes. So to me, that's a reply from the question I asked because you were smoking here. Really and truly, I would have rather not be there. So that's why I asked, why are you smoking like that? Because you were smoking here. Really and truly, I would have rather not be there. So that's why
I would have rather not be there. So out of politeness, he asked.
Why I asked, why are you smoking like that? Because it was what you call a chain. Once you've done it one, another one was lit. Another one was lit. While we were there, maybe about 3 cigarettes was lit at the same time, one after the other one, But it was not enough time because the person I am, I like to console people. I like to talk with people.
Yeah.
There was not enough time. Maybe if the following day I would have seen her, maybe I would have.
And he's looking into that's a good.
What's with? So there were these two women that were recently interviewed that were there on that cruise too. That they thought they saw Amy and you head back up to the Viking Lounge after it closed.
No,
didn't happen.
First of all, the keys that we use, and I did not even know that until this thing happened.
No. Okay, let's see his reply here.
There were these two women that were recently interviewed that were there on that cruise too. That they thought they saw Amy and you head back up to the Viking Lounge after it closed.
No,
didn't happen.
First of all, the keys that we use, and I did not even know that until this thing happened. the card keys that we used for our doors to go into the room. So once I went down and we went into my room, it would read the time you came in. And I never really knew that. As I said, I was a young boy. All this technology was not known to me.
Yeah.
You know?
So they knew when you went back to your stateroom.
I only got to know that the following day. And this is how I know. The hotel manager, the morning, around 7 o'clock, I was awakened by a call by the hotel manager. And he asked me, Douglas, do you have a woman in your room? It was forbidden.
Yeah.
It was forbidden bringing them in our room.
But it happened.
Going in our room. It was forbidden dating. But and I'm going to be very straight with you. In my life, I've been in the Royal Caribbean for a little over 5 years. And I've sit and talked with a lot of people, and we've made dates and stuff like that. But of course,
He had women in his room.
1 week, nothing could,
Yeah.
So he asked me the question, and I said, no. And I asked, like, why? He said that the woman you were talking to last night at the club, we can't find her. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. And he said, all right, I will call you back. The phone was hung up. As a matter of fact, he told me, don't leave the room, but he will talk to you.
Wow.
And it's a matter of fact, right after that, from what I know, they ground the ship shortly after that, close it up, nobody can go out, nobody can come in. And this is when the investigation started, is when I realized that they could have checked the time I went into my room.
Yeah.
Because I did not know that. So I'm not allowed to be back out of my room until in the morning period.
Yeah.
So once I clock in at 1, sometimes I might have gone downstairs sometimes. Normally we would go downstairs, and if I'm hungry, I would go to the crew mess and all of that, and then clock in, But once I got in, I did not come back out until I got that phone call. And then I was told, don't leave the room. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, was both of us in the room, one of the other musicians. So each room, we were 4 musicians in the band. So each 2 in one room, 2 in another room, on bunk beds. So Oscar Alexander was the guy there with me on the top. I was at the bottom.
Oh, so there was another guy in the room with you too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Oscar Alexander. And that was it. Then came the FBI.
Yeah.
They ground the ship.
Did you have to take a lie detector test, or was
they? Again, I go back to my innocence of these things. So of course, every person who would have interacted with her, the people who cleaned the room, the people who served her dinner, everybody was interrogated. Mm-hmm. I was put all of these things on me, and maybe did 1 or 2 or 3 because the sessions went on and on and on and on and on. Lie detector tests.
What did they say to you afterwards?
Well, at that time, they did not say anything much to me. They took the stuff off and they released me. But then it was followed up by a woman called Sherry. And I'm sorry, she left her card with me, but that's years ago. Yeah. Sherry was an FBI agent.
Yeah.
She came to Grenada.
Oh, wow.
Met me at a hotel and interviewed me a couple times. And at the last time she spoke with me, she said to me, listen, you are clear from this. She said
that's going to be good to hear.
But, well, of course. I mean, I was not really worried because I know that I don't know anything about all of this. But at the same time, I was a bit nervous because this is a new thing for me. This is my name being mixed up in something that I don't know about. And I'm not used to this. Listen, my life has been... I've lost so many opportunities.
Because of this?
Because of this.
How? Because they Google your name or something?
Change it.
And that would come up.
Yeah.
I've been such intensively coming from Greece to Grenada when I got to London just because my name.
Really?
It don't happen now. I travel freely, nobody give me a hard time, but at that time, so I've lost, there were contracts on other ships that people wanted me to come for a couple months, good paying for a few months, that once my name was entered, say, no, They would say that I had something to do with this missing girl, and I lost. I lost the contract, and I struggled for a long time. But I'm good. I set up my little business, but for me, that is as much as I can really say that I know about this.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there anything else? Have you ever looked online about what people have said, or do you try to stay away from that?
I should stay away. Let me see. My inbox, my Facebook, people have been writing me horrible stuff for years.
Really?
My wife, for years. My wife just ignored it.
Your wife?
Yes, once she is a Douglas.
Yeah.
My daughter, who lives in the U.S., has been bombarded. As a matter of fact, I think she met with some people some time ago. Yes, only lately. We haven't talked much lately because lately she called me one day.
Yeah.
Maybe about 6 or 7 weeks ago. But first of all, she called me maybe.
So now, okay, let me see when this was. October 2024 was when this video was uploaded. So this is very recent, of course. And yeah, Netflix had a thing on this. And yeah, I can imagine now that you're getting bombarded with people wanting, with people who don't necessarily care about this case, but they want to use it for a personal thing that I talked about 2 videos ago.
8 weeks ago. I said, Daddy.
And as I always say, we want to find the truth, whatever it may be. If you look at my videos about Jack and Lily Sullivan so far, I haven't been wrong. But I tread carefully. I don't step ahead of myself.
This thing with the girl, look, I keep getting all this stuff coming to me, and I'm concerned with my daughter. And I said, Amika, listen, I say, if you want, you can let people know that I'm not your father, because I say, I can't explain this. This has been going on for years. People have been sending me stuff, and I said to her, the truth will come out. I say, and when the truth come out, I will sue the people who've been making documentaries about me. But I say, for now, it's just in the hands of who's investigating, but things always comes up. The truth, no matter how long it is, it always surfaces. Somebody's gonna know.
Did you hear how he says the truth surfaces? But Daniel Matera said the internet is like a sea. Lies rise to the surface the quickest. Because in Daniel's case, the lies are what he cannot hold back. Lying comes easy to him. And the more you talk to him, the more lies have come up, right? The more inconsistencies that he tries to explain with having, said so much, it's natural that you are inconsistent with your story. Not so, bro. The truth will surface.
Somebody knows something and somebody will speak at some point.
Yes, I think so.
And I said that to her. About a week later, she called me. And I'm not stupid. I know people were listening to her. And I didn't know at first, but I can tell you how I knew after. She called me and said, Daddy, when I spoke to you about the people sending me stuff, this Amy, and there's a documentary about you. How come people can say they saw you on the beach? I said, oh my God, I was not no beach. No way. I live in Grenada next to the beach. I hardly even go to the beach. So, why would I be on the beach? And people say they saw you. I say, well, if people have seen me somewhere, then of course they have evidence then that I know this girl. I said, I've never been anywhere. Since after talking to that girl that night, that was it. She questioned me and I was not thinking, well, I thought she was just maybe being rude to me at the time, but I believe she was doing what she had to do because people were listening. Let me tell you how I knew. Then she said, do you know she was gay? I said, yes. I said, she was smoking a lot. I asked her why she was smoking like this. And then she began to tell me that she's gay and her family found out and they forced her to come to the cruise. Once I say
Right.
forced her to come to the cruise, I just heard the phone cut off, but it cut off not normal, like a clack. I've watched enough movies with FBI and stuff, tracking and listening. I'm watching. When did the phone hang up? I said there were people listening to this conversation. I didn't mind. I called her back. She never answered.
So maybe the informants have said to her, why don't you have a private conversation with your dad, and maybe we'll catch him admitting to something. Who knows?
Then my son told me, Amika is in Georgia. So that's where she went to meet who she went to meet. Amika is in Georgia because they communicate, and she's going back home today.
They communicate, so yeah.
So when he said that, I added what I felt, and I said, okay. And she got back home. She sent me a text, and the text showed how some people sent some stuff to her. You know, where is Amy? On her, and she said, "This is what I am talking about, Dad. I know you don't understand, but this is what I'm talking about." And then she said, "I don't deserve this." And I wrote back and I said, "Amika, what have I done to you?" And that was the last conversation I've had. She hasn't got back to me, and I decided I'm leaving. I am the kind of guy who like to let things cool off. So I just left her. I'm waiting on her because I know she's going to reach out at some point and say, "Dad, I'm sorry. I know it's going to come to pass somewhere, whoever knows, somebody knows."
Other people. I'm sitting at
I don't need to see this now. So I've looked a little bit more into what Alistair, what was his name? Alistair Douglas said, and why he was also okay. Let's read this here. Between 5:15 and 5:30 on. One moment. So we have Amy Bradley, her father Ron, and her brother Brad, and the mother. They're there together on this cruise. Ron had won this trip, the father, and we heard what he claimed, that the family wanted her to come, and she was reluctant, and that she may be gay. Okay. Ron woke up at 2:45 and struggled to get back to sleep. And that's an interesting part. Brad had gotten into a bit trouble. Dad wanted to make sure that was okay. Now, we know exactly what time the two of them eventually returned to the family suite. Amy and her brother Brad Bradley. Okay. Thanks to the electric door system, it showed that Brad arrived back at the room around 3:35 a.m. and Amy followed around 5 minutes later. The two siblings then sat on the balcony together, chatting about life, before Brad turned in for the night. Amy stayed in a lounge chair on the balcony, wanting to sleep off her seasickness in the fresh air. So that was the balcony of the cabin. It was not the public area. In the early morning, restless Dad Ron woke up once again, noticing that Amy was out sleeping on the balcony. He later told People, "I could see Amy's legs from her hips down. Dozed back off to sleep." Okay, so you have an alibi, a so-called alibi now, right? The balcony door was closed because, and this is worrying me, if you know the balcony door was closed, you say the balcony door was closed. End of story. The balcony door was closed. And he says, because If it hadn't been closed, I would have gotten up and closed it. This is unnecessary information. That makes me actually think the balcony door was not closed. You see this? I would have gotten up and closed it. Now, this is even more of this. About 6 a.m., something awoke me again. Something. What did? Okay, now we have 6 a.m. In the early morning hours, Dad, Ron, woke up. What time was that? She got home at 3:40 a.m. So between 3:40 a.m. and 6 a.m., what happened? Now she was in her cabin. And Alistair, like whatever, did she go out there to meet him? I don't see that. I don't see that happening. Nope, I don't see that happening, people. I see deception in the father's statements. That's all I can. That's where I'm at. I scan everything really quickly, but this is a huge red flag here. He would have gotten up because, and then he says, about 6 a.m. something awoke me. What woke you up? You don't remember? Again, you woke up? I got up, looked out on the balcony, and the balcony door was open. Now the door was open. About 14 to 16 inches. Now he's being very accurate, and Amy wasn't on the deck. And I had a little funny feeling at that time, because it was unlike her to be up that early in the morning. A little funny feeling. Okay. I guess I have to watch some Dr. Phil if I'm going to get more into this. But here's another one. However, other reports indicate that the balcony was open at the time. Okay, here, this is the part. Okay, one more time. I could see Ron told local newspapers, I could see Amy's legs from her hips down, dozed back off to sleep. Yes, the alibi, right? The balcony door was closed because if it hadn't been closed, I would have gotten up and closed it. That door was not, no. However, other reports indicated that the balcony door was open at the time. Yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that. And these are her parents, Ron and Ivor Bradley. So back then, cruise line officials think Amy Bradley fell overboard. Either, there are three possibilities. Accidentally, suicide, which, no, I don't see, or somebody pushed her. But the parents, they want people to think that she was kidnapped. And what do you think on this cruise line, Royal Caribbean Cruise? They have a security system. Do you think that, I don't see it to be likely that all of a sudden from there somebody traffics somebody who is an international traveler, has the money, the security system, the door. I'm sorry, I don't see that happening. But I note when somebody tries to lead me into a certain direction, and look at something that is a lot less likely than her being in the water for one of three reasons. Okay. By the way, Wikipedia is okay to use, even though there are errors from time to time, but that's why I always go back to the, always look back at the references here. But this is what I wanted to you to listen to, listen to from me talking. I left to try and go up and find her. He left. So he talks about leaving the cabin. This is also unnecessary. I left to try and go up. There is far too much unnecessary information here. I went to search for her. Would make sense. But he's telling us that he left the cabin. That's unnecessary. You had to leave the cabin to go up there and search for her. To try, that is very, very minimizing and very hopeless. And that is more likely to indicate that what you're about to do is not search for her, but you rather you already know what happened to her. Do or do not do. There is no try. But he says, I left to try. No, I went to search for her. That would be expected. Try is extremely minimizing here. That's hopeless. Your child is missing, and the reason you go up to try, you say at that moment, your mindset is, I'm going to find her. I go up there and find her. And go up and find her. I left to try and go up. Going up also. Is that necessary to say there is? And then at the very last part, the last priority was find her. This indicates that finding her was not on his mind. And a reason could be him already knowing what had happened. He says, when I couldn't find her, I didn't really know what to think. Now think about that for a minute. You cannot find your child. I don't really know what to think. Saying really, that's alarming to me right now. Of course you didn't know, but he says, I didn't really know. Remember with Janie, I didn't really have my grandchildren's pictures? Yes, she did. When somebody says really, take note. That more likely indicates I knew something. I didn't really know. Well, I know what to think. Why would you have time to think? You would run around, look for your child. But because it was very much unlike Amy to leave and not tell us where she was going. Right. And this also is a form of letting us know that her leaving the cabin after she went in there again is not likely. However, other reports indicate that the balcony was open at that time. I'm getting back into this one right now. I could see Amy's legs from her hips down. Also strange way to word it, right? Dozed back off to sleep. Okay, I couldn't have done anything. The balcony door was closed because if it... No, the door was not closed. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. But what he wants us to think is that at 3:40 a.m. we know Amy came back. So we have 2 hours and 20 minutes, right? So in these 2 hours and 20 minutes, the restless dad, he woke up at some point. And he had already woken up at 2:45. When did you go back to sleep? So, what did he do? Well, an hour later, the kids came home. And then, sometime between 3:40 a.m. and 6, Ron said he woke up, noticing that Amy was out sleeping on the balcony. I got up, looked out on the balcony. That's when he said, about 6 a.m., something awoke me again. He looked up and then he noticed that the door was open. I believe the door was open the whole time, but this is necessary to make it look like she must have left and gotten out of the cabin. Really? So, give me a second here. If she was on the balcony of her cabin and she left the door, wouldn't the electronic devices have no... Oh, well, she didn't need a key card for that, right? Okay. There's a lot, of course, that I'm not having information-wise. But what I'm zooming in on are deceptive statements. And unfortunately, they are given by the father of Amy Bradley. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Everything I'm stating is my opinion and my opinion only, and I hope I'm doing a good job letting you guys know how I am forming it. I haven't formed an opinion. I'm in the process of it. So about 6 a.m., something woke me again. I got up. Something. Yeah, what did it? What woke you up? No idea? Okay, I got up, looked out on the balcony. Okay. I got up, looked out on the balcony. Again, so much information. First, he lets us know he woke up. Then he got up. Okay. Then he looked out, and the balcony was open 14 to 16 inches, and Amy wasn't on the deck. And I had a little fun. Why wouldn't she close the balcony door if she had left? Were there no cameras anywhere? Was she not seen anywhere? She just left? She came in at 3:40. What are we to believe she did? Why did she leave again? She had a lot to drink. She didn't want to be inside. She wanted to be on the balcony. Okay, I believe that. I also believe that conversation with Alistair took place. So you're trying to tell me that she went back out to meet somebody? What would make more sense to me when he says he got up, looked out on the balcony, and the balcony door was open, and Amy wasn't on the deck. A funny feeling at that time because it was unlike her to be up. So what time did you wake up after 3:40? Between 3:40 and 6. So he said the family forced her to. Maybe she didn't want to go. Maybe she was reluctant. I'm just looking for any type of language that stands out to me. She was according to Amy's mother, Ivor Bradley. Amy had to be persuaded to join her family, on the Caribbean cruise ship. Okay, Rhapsody of the Seas. She says she was reluctant about going up to the railing, but her dad and her brother both said, "Come up here. We'll hold on to you." The language "holding on to you" is, it stands out to me. It almost sounds like somebody being held captive, right? But I mean, here's a picture of her, right? I guess that's maybe her with the guy, with the musician back then, before he gained a lot of weight, maybe. That's them, possibly. Can you see this? Oh no, it's horrible, right? Yeah, you can see a little bit. That's not my point. So, according to this archive, she was last seen by her father, and that is absolutely. She was last seen by her father, Ronald Bradley, on the balcony at around about 4:30 a.m. Tuesday. She was dozing on a deck chair with the balcony sliding glass door closed, he said. Look how important it is for him to convince that it was closed. Family members in the door to the balcony was open when they awoke a few hours later. Okay, I don't like this because between 4:30 a.m. and 6 a.m., that's not a few hours later, right? Suggesting Amy came inside. And that is the evidence that she must have left the deck. Personally, I believe she never left the deck, not voluntarily. And it wasn't some kidnappers that entered that room. It wasn't some kind of trafficking ring that went past all of the security on a cruise ship where people pay quite a bit of money and they normally do a very good job protecting their passengers. Without a key card, huh? Right. So they believed she left the cabin and was kidnapped somewhere on the ship. So you don't even think she was in the water, she fell in the water. You say she was kidnapped and then bogus, bogus. But the fact that you're trying to convince us of such a ridiculous thing is to be noted. And that is also a major sensitivity. And it goes into the area of avoidance. Avoiding to look at the more obvious. You do not just fall off a cruise ship, said Marianne Noblin, Amy's aunt. She did not commit suicide. There was foul play here. I agree. Somebody knows something, and who is being deceptive? So here's another one from Ron. She said she hadn't been feeling too well because of the motion of the boat. Well, was there another reason she wasn't feeling too well? Since we left Aruba that evening. So she said she was gonna just to stay out there and get some fresh air. And that is him saying, about 6 a.m. something woke me up again. Okay. Amy's mother said, I got very, very panicked and frightened and asked them, please don't put the guy, you need to look. Okay. The question was, how did Alistair know so early something was wrong before everybody else? Well, he got a phone call, right? From the manager, being told she was missing. I became more and more frantic, Amy, because I knew that if she was in a position to hear the announcement, she would come immediately to us. And then I had thoughts that maybe somebody had her in a room and she heard it and couldn't get to us. Yeah, there are many more accusations here, but I'm looking only at the deceptive statements right now. The brother said about, Alistair, she said that when they were dancing at the disco, he tried to, dance a little too close, and she had to tell him to back off a little bit. I believe that too, especially when he said, what do you blow? I mean, come on, people. You know what I mean? There's a deception on his part. Did he try to make a move? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Maybe many. And he said that the musician said he felt bad about what happened. That was really odd thing to say so early. Nobody knew except for my family and I. Well, somebody on the ship knew. The manager knew probably, and he called him, right? So he knew. There's rumor and legend. Who is this? Yeah, about trafficking. Okay. Now this one from Amy's mother also stood out to me. Warning, viewer and listener discretion is advised. She says Amy would have been a trophy about trafficking. Amy would have been someone that I believe could have been picked out and fingered to move off of that ship. Isn't that interesting language? Fingered. Warning, viewer discretion. Didn't he say that she said she was gay? What was on Mummy's mind? Yeah, the same way he said blow. What do you blow? That is not accidental language. She would have been picked out and fingered to move off of that ship. She could have been held and hidden. You're not telling me that you believe she was. She could have been possibly drugged and taken from that ship. Possibly. Remember when Malaya, Brooks, Murray talked about not that they could have been abducted, but it's possibility. What do you really think? I think I made it quite clear who I think has more answers than they are given us. And here's another picture of her. And again, I know very little about the case. I am interested in more statements from Ron and the mother, possibly her brother as well. I have not made any conclusions officially, but I think, you can tell that there's a certain path I'm already on. I'm Mike the Man, and I hope to see you very soon.